Cool.
Let's do it.
We are officially recording I think this is the 28th knowledge drop, which is pretty exciting. We got my guy Jordan here from Yugen. And just to quickly go over the housekeeping before I pass it over to him, basically, if this is your first time joining a knowledge drop, feel free to use the chat box, which most of y'all are already doing. Make sure it's set to all panelists and attendees. And then also, as Jordan's giving his presentation, if you guys have questions that come up for you, just use that question and answer box that's on Zoom, and we'll make sure to try to get to as many of those as we can at the end of the half an hour. And we do only have half an hour, 25 minutes now. So I'm going to try to get Jordo in a sec. But yeah, thanks again for being here, guys. This is a super exciting one. If you just don't know why you showed up here, what this is about, we're going to learn how to build some websites today, something I've always felt like had a high barrier to entry. Like I would have just assumed I could never do that. And already when Jordan and I ran through this, I was like, I could make a website. Oh my gosh. So hopefully
you can do it, Trav. You can
do it. And hopefully you guys all feel like that at the end of this presentation. So it's exciting stuff. And as I mentioned, we are recording, so you can always share this with people afterwards when we get this up in the Knowledge Drop archive blog. So that's all I got to say for y'all. Thanks again for being here. Jordan, take it away, man. Thanks for doing this.
Let's do it. So I'm presenting now, and is it my screen going to share automatically, or do I got to press something?
Yeah, go into screen share. Yeah, just pop that screen share button and then present.
Got it. I got it.
Boom.
Alrighty.
In there.
We're going to go ahead and get started, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Definitely excited to share some knowledge with you guys, hopefully. Basically, the theme of this drop is going to be DIY web design. So like kind of the tagline of it is you don't need code, and that's why there's no excuses for not having a website if you need one. So what's about to drop? Basically, I want to preface with the fact that custom code-driven websites are always going to be relevant in my opinion, but a lot of sites, depending on what you're doing, will be codeless for creators in the near future. And this is kind of a trend that we're seeing pick up steam. And I think it'll be good for you guys to touch it now when it's a little bit earlier and get used to that trend. So today we're going to learn how to be effective on the modern web without it being your core competency. You're doing a lot of other stuff. How do you showcase it effectively on the web quickly? So you'll leave with a checklist for preparing your site and a basic web design tutorial. So why I'm dropping it, I spent the last 3+ years developing websites across various industries. You can kind of see a few there. And currently I'm a freelancer, have my own brand, doing marketing strategy and web design. And I think one other point, which I didn't write down, but is worth mentioning, is I don't have any traditional web design knowledge. Like I didn't go to school for it. I taught myself this stuff. So that's just another point to prove to you guys that this is something you can do. So how I'm going to start here. Basically, I have a framework of the 5 keys to modern web design, like what's effective today. And I think they're major. They really are. So we're going to start with number 1. Number 1 is if you could only get a visitor to take one action on your site. So they come to your site, they could take one action and they're going to leave forever. What would it be? So this is like your money maker. This is your primary business goal. This is what's going to drive revenue for your brand or project. So it's your call to action. What do you want me to do? And it's really the primary business goal of your site placed and promoted in a way that's effective for people that land on your website. So in terms of call to actions, I'm going to run through a quick example, which we're obviously all familiar with, which is the Remote Your Website. So, as we all know from being in this program, like their primary business goal when people land on their website is to get the people that come there to share their contact information and enter that admissions funnel. If you go to remoteyour.com and you leave and they don't get your contact details and the ability to have a conversation with you, they get no value from you. So that's their goal, is to get their contact info so you can see how they've got kind of an engaging headline, keep your job, see the world, leave the planning to us. That's kind of aligned with their mission and what they're trying to do for people. And then they've got those clear prominent CTAs. That's the get started that you see in blue in the middle of the header image and also in the top right. So their CTA is like very clear, and that's kind of how they get you started on that buying journey, by getting your contact details, and that's really pushing towards their business goal. So for you guys to create a powerful CTA, you really want to align your brand with that primary business goal. What's going to make you money? So the first step that I recommend is just open like a Word document, a Google Doc. Just place like your primary business goal next to a mission or a vision statement, and write some stuff. So you want to write like 3 line copy and 3 CTAs, and like just make a few pairs of those, kind of mashing that mission statement with what your primary business goal is, with what's going to drive revenue for you. And you want to end up in the end just picking the pairing that best balances clarity and engagement. So you want it to be fun, you want it to be engaging, but you want to make sure it's also very clear for people that land on your website. I recommend asking a friend to just take a look at it and make sure it's clear. Below, I've also included just a bunch of different CTAs. You know, every brand and project is going to have a different primary business goal. You're going to be driving revenue in a different way. So really, you're going to need to think about what's going to work best for you. These are some good thought starters, and I'll touch on later the execution of these a little bit. So the next key is number 2, and that is basically the fact that 55% of visitors are spending less than 15 seconds on your site. So you need to make an impression. You need to make a really good impression. You need to make it very quickly. So number 2 is visual design. So how does your site make me feel? When you land on a website, you don't necessarily cognitively think about it, but you're having an emotional reaction to what they're showing you. And that's made up of their logo, their consistent brand colors, their fonts, an eye-catching hero image. All that stuff kind of creates that visual design that's giving you that first impression. There's a million, great examples of this. I've got one that I thought was pretty good here. This is OkCupid's website. And they've just got, a really strong pink that draws you in. Their header image is actually a vector of a couple, and it's on brand in the sense that it's a bit quirky. It's also, invoking that kind of dating, imagery, and they've got consistent fonts and colors throughout. So really you're getting an impression from them. So to get you guys to that place, basically what I first recommend is just describe the feeling that you want to elicit. So when someone lands on your site, you're going to want to elicit a certain feeling. The way that I think is easiest to do this is just to make a list of 5 to 10 keywords that evoke that initial reaction. So they can be locations, things, or people, really just any words that are evoking what you would like people to feel when they land on your website. And then step 2 is really designing that. So Remote, you're actually partnered with a company that I've been using for a long time. It's a free website called Unsplash, where you can get awesome header images. So really what you can do with that list of keywords that you've had is you can type that into Unsplash, get a list of awesome images, and just pick one that's really eliciting that feeling for your homepage, because that homepage header is really the most important image across your entire site. Colors is an awesome free tool that allows you to pick a color scheme that really complements each other. And alongside that, font pair is also great for picking like a headline and a body font that really work great together. One thing I like to make note of for people is that I from a lot of people that I've talked to, they're always like, oh yeah, I want to launch my website, but I don't have a logo yet. I'm not ready. I just want to make it clear, you don't always need to wait on a logo to launch. Text logos with an interesting font can work. And if you get off the ground with your project, that's, the difference between having and not having a logo is not going to matter as much. So one thing I'm also going to touch on Squarespace at the end. That's my preferred platform, and they offer an intuitive kind of easy logo maker for people who have an active account. So number three is the fact that a website visitor that's lost is a website visitor you've lost, and they are not going to come back. So you've all had a bad experience on a website. You get there, you don't know how to find what you're looking for, and unless you're far along in the buying process with that brand, you're going to have a bad experience. You're not going to return. So number 3 is navigation. So where is what I want to find? And this is really made up of an efficient navigation bar and page titles that make your site clear with the minimal amount of clutter. So here's an example. I hate to pick on Tetra because they are a nonprofit, but that's where you often see some of these issues in companies that aren't as, tech startups are not going to have these issues as much. But basically, you're seeing on this page here, you're seeing a top navigation that's got duplicate information as a sub nav, and then you've got buttons on the left that are duplicate information to those two. So you've really got duplicate information all over the board. You've got like kind of vague page titles that don't really tell you what content you're supposed to expect when you click into it. So really, you're not going to be able to find what you're looking for, and you're much more likely, especially in the sense of a for-profit company that wants your money, you're much more likely to disengage with them if you get lost. So for you guys, I just recommend holding the confusion. Just make your site easy to understand and navigate. So first step to that, a lot of people don't think to do this, but just look around. Like, use Google. It's the most essential tool that we all have. Find 3 clear and well-designed sites of businesses that have either similar goals to you or are directly in your industry, and just review how they're structured. Review their page titles, what write down the ones that are immediately clear and logical to you, and you can just disregard the rest. So you could use your competitors kind of as your advantage on websites, and just kind of use them as competitive research. And then secondly, just make sense of it. So for more simple sites, like maybe the site for a freelance brand where you've just got like a blog and a work page, you probably don't need to do like an extensive sitemap, but I do recommend you still write it out. But there's also a tool called Lucidchart, which is free for more complex sites. A sitemap is basically just a diagram where you're creating your tabs and you're writing down what should be under each tab, and then you've got this kind of blueprint when you go to create your site. A lot of people will jump into website builders and they don't necessarily know how they're going to structure their site. They end up having duplicate content. They end up having kind of a mix mash, and things are confusing. So if you have this foundation, it really helps to ensure that clarity for the end user and gives you something to stick to when you're building your site. So you can see, when I click this tab, it's going to show this content, and that makes sense to people because that's what they would expect when they click through. And for those of you that are considering, making websites for clients, I really recommend doing sitemaps because you get on the same page with the client before you start doing design work. So it's definitely a really good way to be on the same page with the client and not have that awkward conversation where you're far into a project and they want to push back on, an essential part of the site. Number 4, content is king. That's like all that needs to be said about it. Everybody kind of knows this. It's pretty much the first fact of the internet these days. But number 4 is content. So what do you have to offer me? Relevant content visitors want, either a signature piece of content or ongoing content. It really depends on your brand and what you're looking to do. So the example, again, we're going to come back to Remote Year for this. It's the reason, content is the reason that somebody would come back to your site. So on their site, Remote Year has, a bunch of content. They have videos, they have blogs, they have current, past remote profiles, they have new itineraries, they have mixers and event postings, they have different programs and pricings as they come up. And then off their site, they've got Facebook, they've got their own profile, they have ads, they have Instagram, they have Medium, they're doing cross-brand partnerships. So all of these pieces of content, the ones on site are bringing people back to the website, and that's once again increasing the likelihood they're going to engage with that CTA and get into that admissions funnel. And then the off-site ones are either engaging people with the brand, or they're eventually pushing them to the site for the same reason. So when you're looking to develop a content strategy, step 1 is just define it. If you're a business, I like when people are able to just offer one really strong piece of content in exchange for emails, and that's a great way to capture your leads and also make your CTA stronger. So when we talked about CTAs a few keys ago, we talked about all the different types, and if we're looking at lead generation CTAs, these are where you're trying to capture someone's email. So a lot of you have seen like download this PDF for free, and type in your email, you get this PDF for your email. That's a great way to capture a lead. So now you have their contact information. You're able to send marketing messages to them. You're able to try to schedule a consultation with them. There's all kinds of ways that you can use that information, but if you don't capture it, they leave your site. They may not engage with you again, and that could be a sale that you've lost. That could be someone that didn't follow you on Instagram. That's just a lead that is no longer available to you. And if you are going to do email marketing, and that's basically if you would say download this free PDF and give me your email, I recommend MailChimp for people. There's a few competitors that are all great. MailChimp's just a low-cost option to send automated emails. So if someone downloads your PDF, they type in their email, they get an email with the PDF, and then after that, you can have 3 more emails in a row that are all getting them further in your sales funnel. One could have products in it that you're trying to sell them. One could give them a coupon. You've really got a lot of options there, but you have that lead for later. If you're a creator, your content is obviously basically what your brand is made of. So your content should feature on your homepage. You should be adding new content on a consistent schedule. I don't need to tell creators this. For some projects, especially those in early stages, you don't want to push yourself out of your comfort zone with content. It can be as simple as web pages that explain the value of your brand or your project. And step 2, once you've kind of defined where you want to go with content and what you need, go content crazy or don't. So one tool that I really recommend for creating content, by yourself and on a budget, and this works for brands and projects as well as freelancers, is called Adobe Spark. There's also a few competitors to this, but it's a free tool that just allows you to create easy social content, blog image headers, other text image overlays really quickly. You know, it's not going to have the feature set of a Photoshop at all, but it's just going to be very quick, very easy to create some content that you can, you know, disseminate across channels. But I also want to reiterate that not all sites require ongoing content. So focus your energy where it aligns with your business goals. I always want to push people back to what's going to make you money, what's your CTA, and how are you pushing people toward that. Number 5, so you want to show your site visitors that you're friends with all the popular kids in your industry. So a lot of times people land on your site, they don't know who you are. So social proof is number 5. And that's basically, why should I believe you? A few examples of that are logos of affiliated brands, reviews from previous customers, credentials, or even unique selling points. So social proof is a really powerful tool. And we can look at this example here I've got from Designation, which some of you may be familiar with. But if you look toward the bottom of the image there, you can see that they've got the logos of companies that their students have gone to work for. So automatically, if you're not familiar with Designation, you've landed on this page, you're automatically associating them with these massive brands, with Accenture, with Google, with brands that you're familiar with and you already have a level of trust built with. So this is definitely an awesome way to take a brand that, you know, your brand that is not familiar to people. And if you have ways to affiliate it or substantiate it or, you know, build trust with a new visitor, that's really powerful. So for you guys, find the things you're proudest of is really the first step. So it can be previous clients you've worked for. It can be messages from happy customers if you're selling some products, or it can be certifications you've received in your field. But it highly increases the likelihood that a new unfamiliar visitor is going to trust you and be more likely to engage with you, more likely to give you their email, more likely to purchase a product on your site, more likely to schedule a consultation with you. But step 2 is really show that off. So just putting it on your site in a way that's visually appealing. I recommend to put social proof above the fold if you have room. That for those of you that don't know, above the fold is just a term that refers to the space on a web page that loads before you scrolled at all. So it's what immediately loads on your screen. Otherwise, it should be directly below that. You definitely want to put it pretty high on the page. Affiliated logos are the strongest form of social proof. That was kind of the form that we saw in the Designation example back there. And it's also a form Remote Year uses, where they say we've been featured in these publications. But, you know, not everybody's going to have that available to them. But if you do, it's definitely the most powerful form. So real quick, what we're going to do with the last, let's see, we only got a minute. So I'm just going to jump into Squarespace, which is my preferred platform. You know, Wix, there's a few other competitors that a lot of people really enjoy, and they're all very similar. But Squarespace is just the one I use. We're going to just take a quick look at it just so you guys can get a little familiar. If any of you guys haven't heard of You Can Build, that's kind of a project that we're doing internally. This is just kind of a side promotion for that. But this website was created with Squarespace. We're using it to collect donations for that project. And I've created just like a little bit of a mirror site here on Squarespace, which I'll just use to show you guys real quick a few ways that you could edit and, you know, update a Squarespace site. So this is kind of like an example of a site that you could be working off of. And right now I'm just going to update the homepage banner because it's white right now, and I've got this picture here that I think looks really nice. So I'm going to update that. It's a user interface that's super intuitive. There's no code involved here, and there is the option to inject code if you get to a point where you'd like to make something custom. But it is pretty pick and play for those of you that aren't familiar with those kinds of projects. So right now I've got make me into a headline, and that's clearly not what I want to say. I'm going to just pull this copy from the completed site, and I'm going to drop that in. But look at that. It's too big, right? The text is too big, and it seems like it's just getting cut off. So I'm going to go ahead and go into what's called the style editor, and that's here in design. It's called the style editor. This is a tool you'll probably use almost as often as the page tab. This is probably the most used section. And you just simply click on the section that you want to edit. So I could click on the CTA and I could change the color of it. For example, I'd like to make it this blue. That orange that's not one of my brand colors. I'm going to make it this blue, and then I'm going to save it. And then what I wanted to do with the text there is simply just bring the size down a little bit. Make it all fit on one line. So you can see, you know, as different devices are used, it's gonna flex and it's gonna look different. But you've got kind of that ability to quickly make changes. If I wanna update this text here and I want to put the correct text that I've got on the real site, it's as simple as just clicking edit on that section, just selecting that text that you'd like to update and just copy and pasting. So it's really intuitive. It's going to feel pretty natural to you guys. I know a lot of you are like, I have no idea what to do. It's all like overwhelming. Just jump in, just mess around with it for a little while, and you're going to figure out that like it's not as difficult. They've made it pretty intuitive, and it's definitely an experience that you can, get a hold of. And in terms of customization, you're not going to have the same ability to do certain things like you would on a WordPress. But when I talked about the CTAs and how essential it is to capture leads, Squarespace has all of that stuff. So I've got here right now, I've got it linked to the donate page, but I could also change the action. I could make that a newsletter sign up, connect to MailChimp. And now I've got an email collection box, and I'll change the copy to, give me your email and I'll send you a free PDF. Give me your email and you get a free 30-minute consultation. These are ways that you want to get people to engage with you. And you can also, update, when does this show up? I can make it so it shows up when they scroll on the page. I can make it so it shows up on a timer. So long story short, there's a lot of settings in here. There's a lot you can do. But the final product can be pretty beautiful, and it can be effective for a lot of you guys, depending on what you're doing. So with that, I think we've got 3 minutes if we've got 1 or 2 questions.
Awesome, man. It's beautiful website. And I love the just perfectly fitting like plug for you can build as part of this presentation. It's just like he built the website for the project, and it was like, I can talk about this website I built, and you can build it.
Yeah, and I did that well, doing my job. And that's I think another point for like, this is something that you can do pretty quickly and execute.
Awesome, man. Do you want to jump off of screen share so it just goes back to the two of us, and then we'll see if people have questions?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's see here.
But that was awesome, man. And feel free, guys, use this question and answer box. Put some questions in there if you have them. I have a couple, though, before we get any in there. Oh, we just got one, but real quick. First question. How has OkCupid been working out for you as you travel the world? Or
so I actually prefer Tinder. It's a little bit more like location specific as we kind of move around, but
no, I was like thinking that. I was like, I wonder if Jordan uses that. No, but real question. For Squarespace, is like that looked super fun, just seeing you play around on that. And what, like, say, and Jeannie over here on the chat box is like, I can't wait to get in and play around on this stuff. But say somebody wants
it's fun
to do Squarespace, does that cost anything, or what's the cost associated?
Yeah. So I should have probably said that. They all kind of have a little bit of a different pricing strategy. The way Squarespace works, you can create a free site. You can spend as much time as you want in there, and you can have all the features, and that's for 30 days. And after that, you have to either purchase it or your site just becomes inactive. So you can, I could create a site and I've got 30 days to send it to people, get their feedback. They can look at it. It'll be live. It'll have its own URL. After that 30 days, you've got to pay. And the cost is about $140 annually. So you can pay monthly, you can pay annually. You save a little bit of money when you pay annually. But that also includes a domain for the first year. So the pricing isn't horrible. If you're already investing yourself into a project, it's definitely, depending on your goals, it's worth that investment. But you can get it, if you can get a cheaper price with some other providers as well. I prefer Squarespace because it's really polished and it's very secure as well.
Yeah, and that's like, talk about a smart business model, because once you put in some time and effort into building a site, it'd be really hard to just like let it.
Yeah,
for sure. But all that effort, bye.
For sure.
That's pretty wise of them. All right, Isaac got a question here in our chat, in our question box. Do Squarespace, WordPress, Wix, etc. offer any tools for SEO?
Yeah, so Squarespace actually has I'm not on screen share actually, but in this settings section, there's basically a section that's called SEO, and it basically once again just makes it easy for you. So on like a traditional WordPress site, you'd have to go in and you'd have to add the tags in the sections that you want the SEO. It'll legit just have text boxes that are like, enter a description here, and so it automatically will put that in the right place for you. So it makes it easy for you. And from what I've seen and from what they claim on their website, the SEO is very effective, and it's kind of always optimized. I can't specifically claim like how effective it is compared to other platforms. WordPress is going to always give you more flexibility. So you're going to be able to put that code in yourself. That means you're going to have a little bit more flexibility. But with Squarespace, they have that. It's something that they pay attention to, and it's easy. You put the description in the box that it tells you to put the description. You change the page title format. These are things that they make pretty easy to do for people that don't necessarily, understand code as well.
Awesome. And speaking of, we actually had one last question come in from Jeannie Linguini of our programs placement team. She's asking if you actually know code as well, or if you're just sort of a designer person, or can you code a website too?
Is she asking about me? Is she asking people that use Squarespace?
You particularly? Sorry,
I'm just me. Yeah, I do some code. For my clients, I typically do stick with Squarespace. But if I have a developer that I work with on bigger projects, so he's using WooCommerce and WordPress. So it just depends on the customization of the project. I also am a designer as well, so I'm like to consider myself pretty multifaceted. But I think for me, the reason that I get behind these codeless builders is I really do think they're the future. They continue to be more effective for a larger group of people. So at some point I do feel that these are going to be, I don't want to invest myself into getting so deep into code that's my only avenue, when I feel like these are becoming viable for a larger and larger segment of businesses. So
makes sense.
My stance.
Yeah, like watching you play around on that looks like the future. It's like, what a fun
thing. It is
Yeah.
fun too. Just as a plug for people, it's fun. Get in there, just mess around. You'll worst case come out with some ideas for messaging on your site.
Awesome, man. And thanks again. Last really quick question: are you cool if people reach out to you on Slack if they have follow-up questions or want to ask about You Can Build or anything?
Yeah. My information is at the end of the presentation. I'm happy to chat with people and give advice. I definitely enjoy it. So yeah, reach out. Feel free. I'm happy to help.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks again for giving this knowledge drop. It's a super interesting one. I'm surprised we haven't covered this topic to date. So it was a long time coming, and you did an incredible job with it. Thanks to everybody who joined. Appreciate you guys. And yeah, we'll be back 2 weeks time for the next knowledge drop.
Thanks, everyone.
Good day, night, wherever you guys are in the world. Thanks, Jordan.
Bye.
Bye.